This story is about a fisherman named John. Like every other day, he went out to sea in his small boat to catch fish. But that day, something strange happened. Suddenly, a thick fog descended all around him. He couldn't see anything, not even a short distance away. John lost his way and, while drifting aimlessly, spotted an empty boat. Out of curiosity, he tied his own boat to it and decided to climb aboard. The moment John stepped inside, he was stunned. The entire boat was empty. No people, no sounds, only an eerie silence. At first, everything seemed perfectly normal. There was fresh food, neatly folded clothes, and clear signs that people had been there. But there wasn't a single soul on board. He tried to start the boat's engine, but it wouldn't work. Alone in the vast ocean with this abandoned boat, John felt a chill of fear. He used his binoculars to scan the surroundings, hoping to spot someone nearby. But the thick fog still covered everything. Feeling helpless, John went back to the control room and turned on the radio to send a distress signal. He said, "This boat is drifting in the ocean. Can anyone hear me?" After sending the signal, he thought he should return to his own boat, but when he stepped outside, his boat was gone. Even though he had tied it securely, his astonishment deepened when he realized the fog had suddenly vanished. The sky was completely clear, and it was already midday. John couldn't make sense of what was happening. With no other option, he went back inside the mysterious boat and began studying the map, trying to figure out where he was and how to get home. The problem was, the strange boat's engine still wouldn't start. If John wanted to survive, he had to fix the engine at all costs. He searched the entire boat, found a toolbox, and after a lot of hard work, finally managed to repair the engine. It was a huge relief for him. Now the boat was running again, and slowly the direction started to become clear. But the danger hadn't passed entirely. John went back to the control room and tried to use the radio to communicate again. But once more, there was no response. Everything remained shrouded in mystery. Then John went upstairs and suddenly felt the need to use the bathroom. There was no one around, so he thought, "I'll just take care of it here at sea." But just as he reached the edge of the boat, someone suddenly pushed him from behind. He fell straight into the water. The situation became terrifying, but somehow he grabbed onto the reel line and prevented himself from drowning. The wind and water pressure were so strong that climbing back onto the boat seemed nearly impossible. Yet, he didn't give up. Summoning all his courage, he slowly pulled himself back aboard, using the reel. Even after all that, his task wasn't finished. He went to the bathroom again. As he started going down, someone slammed the door shut loudly. At first, he thought the gust of wind had just hit the door, so he ignored it. But when he tried to go outside, he realized the door was locked from the inside. Now, John was stunned. He tried everything to open it, even took a coin from his pocket to insert into the lower latch and turn it, but the door wouldn't budge. He began to feel that he was not alone on this boat. Someone invisible was constantly watching him, as if cruelly playing a game. John shouted, "Please, whoever you are, open the door. I'm not a thief. I just came to look around." But there was no answer. He realized that hoping for help was futile. He headed toward the cabin, and what he saw inside made his blood run cold. Bloodstains scattered everywhere, and the surroundings were horrifying. Ignoring his fear, he picked up a pair of scissors and tried to unlock the latch. But just then, the entire boat began shaking violently. As if something terrible was about to happen, John trembled with fear and panic. That's when his eyes caught a small window above. Somehow, he managed to get out through that window and looked around. In the distance, John saw a huge cargo ship heading straight toward him, directly in his boat's path. He realized instantly that if that ship collided with him, it would all be over. If he wanted to survive, he had to act fast. He thought of signaling for help, but he had nothing in his hands. Desperately, he tore off his shirt and waved it wildly in the air, hoping someone on the cargo ship would notice him. But unfortunately, no one did. Now, only one thought filled his mind. He had to save his life, no matter what. If his boat kept moving forward, the collision would destroy everything. Just then, his eyes fell on a rope hanging beside the window. An idea struck him instantly. What if he could use that rope to stop the boat? Quickly, he tied the rope and threw it out, hoping it would slow the boat down. But things only got worse. The rope twisted and got caught in the engine's propeller. As the propeller kept spinning, it pulled the rope tighter and dragged it back into the bathroom, straight around John's neck. He couldn't breathe. The rope was choking him hard. Darkness clouded his vision. Even at the edge of death, He refused to give up. With immense effort, he grabbed a nearby tool and cut the rope, freeing himself. His neck was bruised and red. He could barely breathe. Somehow, he survived, but his body was completely drained. The rope stuck in the engine had stopped the boat's motion, but it wasn't enough. With a thunderous crash, the cargo ship slammed into his boat. The violent impact shook the entire vessel, and John was thrown to the floor, unconscious. He had a deep wound on his head. After some time, as he slowly regained consciousness, he realized water was rising on the bathroom floor, cold waves lapping at his feet. But the strangest part was, the water filling the bathroom wasn't salty seawater. It was completely clear, fresh water, as if someone or something was deliberately trying to terrify him. John broke down completely. Crying and trembling, he pleaded into the emptiness, "Whoever you are, please let me go. I can't take this anymore." But still, there was no answer. Now, weak from hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, John was almost unconscious. With no other choice, he began drinking water from the shower in the bathroom. After a short while, he realized the water had stopped. He then went to the sink to drink, but fear gripped him. The water now tasted completely salty. That's when he understood. Somewhere, the boat must have a leak, and seawater was flooding in. This boat wouldn't last much longer. Shivering with fear, he tried to open the door, only to realize that someone had locked it from the outside. Night had fallen, and from the upper deck, he thought he saw an invisible shadow. It seemed as though some malevolent force was controlling the boat. The water level was rising quickly, and John, exhausted, eventually lost consciousness. Deep in the night, the sea grew furious. The violent storm began tearing the boat apart. John was injured again, his head spinning from the chaos. By morning, he regained consciousness to find the water nearly up to his head. Only his face was above the surface. It seemed that only a few moments remained. Then, suddenly, he heard a click, as if a lock had been released. He immediately turned the handle, and with a loud thud, the door swung open. The water pressure was so strong that the door was ripped off, and John was swept out along with the surge. Driven by sheer will to survive, he climbed onto the boat's roof and breathed in the fresh air. The oxygen inside had nearly run out. Now he was certain. Some invisible force was deliberately trying to torment him. He was physically and mentally broken, and the water below continued to rise relentlessly. John realized this boat wouldn't stay afloat much longer. And then he made a hard decision. He wouldn't stay on the ship for another moment. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He took some airbags from inside the ship and used the broken bathroom door to build a small raft. He lashed everything tightly so it wouldn't break apart or capsize. But he still needed a few more essentials to sail the raft. He went back onto the ship and gathered food, water, and necessary tools, preparing everything he might need to survive the next leg of the journey. Once he had everything in order, he made himself ready. Then, without looking back even once, John left the ship and floated slowly out to sea on the raft. But strangely, the big cargo ship was still anchored in the same spot ahead of him. Hours passed, yet he neither got very far, nor did that ship sink. The vessel he had thought would go down in 5 to 10 minutes was still floating just as before. Then another thought crossed his mind. If this ship still hasn't sunk, why don't I try to fix it? If I can repair it, I could get home safely aboard this strong ship. With that thought in mind, he returned to the ship. First, he repaired the leaks and reinforced the hull, then connected pipes and equipment to build a pump to remove the water that had accumulated inside. Slowly, with the help of his makeshift pump, the seawater inside the ship began to drain. After draining the water, he repaired several other areas and sealed the gaps from the outside as well, making sure no future danger could seep in. Once all the repairs were done, he turned on the radio again, hoping someone might hear his distress signal. But once more, there was no response. Desperate, John returned from the control room and opened the map, trying to figure out the direction. Everything seemed to be in order, so he started the engine again. But the boat didn't move at all. The engine was running, yet the boat seemed stuck in the water, completely motionless, as if some invisible force was holding it back. John felt as though the sea itself didn't want him to go anywhere. Amidst this paralyzing stillness, he collapsed inwardly, his body exhausted, his mind drained, standing on the edge of giving up completely. All hope seemed to be fading. Then, in the distance, John saw another ship slowly approaching. A tiny spark of hope flared within him. Now, there was only one option left: reach that ship on his small raft. He didn't hesitate. He climbed onto the raft and began paddling with all his strength toward the ship. But just then, the massive vessel suddenly lurched, and as if controlled by some invisible force, it surged straight toward him. John's chest tightened with fear. Desperately, he tried to increase the speed of his raft, but the large ship gained even more momentum. And just when it seemed it would crash into his raft, John made a final attempt. He jumped from the raft and began swimming toward another small boat drifting near the shore. But when he reached the spot, the boat was gone. All around him stretched only the empty horizon, endless blue sea, and complete silence. At that moment, a strong realization struck John. There was something evil about this ship. Some invisible, malevolent force was preventing him from going anywhere. He resolved in his heart, no matter what, I will never return to this cursed ship, even if it means facing death. But night fell, and the sea breeze grew chillingly cold. The water temperature dropped so much that his body began to stiffen. A few dolphins surfaced nearby, but the cold was unbearable, and John could no longer endure it. Desperate, he returned to the ship once more. Now he was so exhausted, weak, and sick that he barely had the strength to think. Silently, he wrapped himself in a blanket, went into a cabin, and fell asleep. By morning, upon opening his eyes, he made the same decision again. Today, I will get off this ship no matter what. But fate seemed determined to torment him. He found that the cabin door was closed again. Fear and disbelief shattered him completely. He questioned himself aloud, why is all of this happening to me? It was then that his eyes fell on a small wooden cabinet in the corner of the room. Curious, he opened it and was astonished to see a narrow air vent inside that might lead him outside. Without hesitation, he climbed in. The space was pitch dark, filled with stacks of storage items, and the only way up was a narrow, hollow pipe-like passage. Every time he tried to climb, his hands slipped, and he fell back down. He hurt his body, split his head open, but still he refused to give up. After falling countless times, he finally managed to reach the top. He tried to open the vent's hatch, but it didn't budge. It was as if someone had deliberately sealed it from the inside, as though every door to John's freedom had been closed by some unknown hand. Meanwhile, the oxygen in the tight space was running out fast. John struggled to breathe. His chest felt heavy and constricted. The door below was also closed, leaving him no way to return to the room. It felt like these were his final moments. But then, again, he heard that familiar click, a mysterious sound, as if a lock had been released. The next moment, the small cabin window popped open with a tick. John didn't waste a second. He pulled himself out. Fresh air hit his face, and for a moment, he felt the relief of freedom. Stepping outside, he was stunned. The boat was slowly moving toward a small island. Seeing this, a surge of hope filled him. Maybe this time I can finally escape this cursed ship. As the boat reached the shore, he jumped off and ran into the island. He felt that this island might hold the power or the person behind all these terrifying events. Trembling with anger and fear, he grabbed a wooden stick and began searching the island. But after moving a short distance, he stopped. The entire island was empty. There was no one, no trace of anyone, as if no one had ever been there. John's chest shook again, a whirlwind of anger, fear, and confusion overwhelming him. As he was leaving the island, a sudden sight unfolded before his eyes. In the distance, that mysterious ship was slowly drifting on the calm sea, as if searching for another prey. Seeing this, John had no doubt. This ship and this island were under the control of some malevolent force. He had to escape no matter what. His life was not over yet. He had to survive. Exploring the island, he finally climbed to the highest peak. From there, he saw another island far away. But it was so distant that he couldn't discern what was happening there. As John wandered the island, he gradually moved backward, and when he reached a certain spot, his eyes widened in shock. There it was. This was the very place where his journey had begun. Everything was exactly as it had been. His old boat tied in the same spot, people walking around as before, as if nothing had changed. The entire scene was calm and ordinary, just like the previous day, as though the terrifying events had never happened. John stood frozen, observing everything. He couldn't believe it had all really occurred. Was it a horrific dream? Or had he truly returned from a cursed reality? But one thing he knew for certain. What he had endured was no illusion. It had been brutal, living reality.